Today we're going to discuss lesson 1 of unit 2, which is globalization. So along the way, there will be questions that will be posted. You may or may not take note of them. Anyway, they're already in your canvas. So let's start with your first 3 questions. Number 1, globalization helps in moving products quickly, true or false? Number 2, the cost of moving goods or of communication increased because of technology, true or false? And number 3, globalization causes the liberalization of foreign economic policies, true or false? Now let's start with globalization. Globalization is the interdependence or interaction between and among countries. And because of globalization, it is now very possible for people to move freely from one country to another, provided, of course, you have your financial capacity and you have your documents. Because if you don't have the documents and you don't have financial capability, just the same, you cannot move from one country to another. Now, um, before it was not possible for us to really move from one country to another, regardless as to whether or not we have the documents or the financial capability. But this time around, the creation or the invention of transportation has made us uh, that has made it for us to be able to travel from one place to another. Another advantage of globalization is it makes us communicate with people from any part of the world anytime. So anytime we can communicate with them, we can communicate with our loved ones who are far from us or even from other countries at any time. Okay, real time. It's real time. Unlike before that, though we can communicate with people away from us through letters, it's not real time. But this time around, we can communicate with these people away from us in real time. Next, also, globalization has made it possible for us to move our products quickly. So quickly, unlike before, they would move their products from one place to another using horses, using carabaos, which would take long. And before they knew it, the product would no longer be useful when it arrived at the place where it should be transported because it will take long. Can you imagine you have vegetable products from Baguio City and you would transport it to Manila? How long will it take the horse or the carabao to bring that to Manila? And maybe when the products would reach Manila, they will no longer be consumable because they're already stale. So, thanks to globalization, this time around, we can move our products very quickly. For example, we can even transport our bananas here in the Philippines to Japan at the shortest period of time. So that's one advantage globalization has brought us. Another thing is that through globalization, we have instant access to information anytime, anywhere. Right now, just one click. Okay, so information is just one click away. We can have it anytime we want or anywhere we want it as long as we have internet connectivity. So globalization represents new ways, new life, okay? New life. It represents also post-traditional order. Okay, it represents new identities, or it forges new identities, new institutions, and of course new way of life. So if you go back to the examples we have given, to the advantages we have discussed, we will understand why globalization represents a new post-traditional order, forging new identities, institutions, and ways of life. Since the order we have right now is no longer the order they had in the past, so it's post-traditional. It's no longer the traditional one. It's no longer the traditional way of communication. It's no longer the traditional way of um, transporting products from one place to another and the like. And therefore, because of these ones, we have now new identities, we have now new institutions, and of course, definitely we have new ways of life. Globalization has increased the economic, political, and cultural interdependence of diverse cultures. So we have to understand that each country has its own culture. The Philippines has its own culture. In other countries, similarly have their own cultures. So that's why we have diverse cultures. But as globalization sets in, now these diverse cultures now become interdependent to each other. So these countries have become interdependent to each other economically. So for example, how are we interdependent? When we say interdependent, we rely on each other. So no one is dependent on another, but everyone is relying on each other. So we have each other's back. So economically, for example, since the Philippines does not produce gasoline, we purchase gasoline from other country who produce or that produces it. So in that way, we are helping their economy because we patronize their products. So we're helping the economy. And as we purchase their gasoline, we brought in their product to our country. We use this product to mobilize also our businesses. So therefore, the product we purchase from them also helps us economically. So that is what we call economic interdependent. Like the Philippines provides the world human resources, which in turn will help us gain economically and also help those people in other countries gain economically because they are using our human resources to run their business as well. Okay. We have also political interdependent because if we don't have this one, political interdependent, maybe there would be wars left and right. Okay. So political interdependent, we rely with each other politically. If there are disputes, um, countries involved will talk, will communicate to resolve the disputes. Okay, and then we also have cultural interdependence. So we come to know other cultures. Other cultures are becoming aware of our culture. Thus, there would be understanding of cultures all over the world. Now, what makes this globalization possible? So globalization has been made possible because of the revolutionary technological innovation. So without the internet, without the computers, without airplanes, without telecommunication towers, without buses, ships, globalization would not have been made possible. Why? Because we cannot travel from one place to another, one country to another without transportations. We could not communicate or we could not have information anytime, anywhere without the internet, without the computer. So these things which we enjoy because of globalization are actually because of the revolution in technological innovations. And as an effect, as effects, we have now the lower cost of moving goods. So why lower? Because we save time. Okay, we save time in transporting these goods. Plus, of course, uh, we can we can transport more at a short period of time. So that in effect will lower our cost of moving goods. So can you imagine how much you would be uh how much how much would it cost you if you're going to transport your products using horses or using carabaos and the like. So it will be more costly. Next, we have here also, it lowers the costs of notable information around the world. So since information can be, we can have information anytime, anywhere, we can have it for free. Okay, unlike before, right now we have ebooks that are free. We can read books for free. Unlike before, we need to buy these books. It's imperative for us to buy the book so that we can read them. This time around, there are free books in the internet. We can just access them, read them for free. So information, we can just click, okay, search the net, and we can have the information for free. Also, we have growing international economic activity. So we interact economically with other countries. So people, we can have foreign investors in our place. We can also invest in other countries and the like. Also, we have liberalization of foreign economic policy. Since um, countries open to other countries for investments, for example, then we are now free from foreign economic policies. So you have your questions 4, 5, and 6. So number 4, going local means to disregard the local culture in favor of the global culture. Number 5, economic globalization means that each and every nation is economically interactive with each other. And number 6, removal of world tariffs is an example of trade liberalization. Okay. So globalization is related to two other concepts. We have diversity and localization. Let us understand each of these concepts. So we have here diversity. What is meant by diversity? Diversity would mean in simple term differences. Okay, there are differences. Now, if there are differences, we have to acknowledge these differences. We have to recognize and then value the differences so that there will be no discrimination. Okay. No one will be bullied. No one will be discriminated if we recognize and value differences. Now, what are the differences that we have? We have differences in age. In terms of communication, we communicate we have our own way of communication based on our age. So, for example, the millennials will have their communication. The millennials will use a certain type of communication that cannot be understood by those that were born in the 1960s, 1970s, and the like. So we have differences in age. Literally, we are different in age, and we also have differences in our way of life. That's cultural in terms of age. So, for example, the new generation would be following a different culture from the generation before. So even if, for example, uh, in a group, there are people of different ages, but they are all belonging to the same tribe, still the same. There are different cultures in terms of age. So in communication, for example, right now, the millennials would make use of terms like LOL, ATM, SLR, which most probably will not be understandable or will not be understood by the Generation X, the baby boomers, and the like. So I just remember my friend, she's now senior citizen, and then she saw a post in Facebook of a relative who died, or of a friend's relative who died. So he wrote there as her comment, condolence, LOL. So for those of this generation who would see that comment, they would probably would be saying, what is this comment? Why is she saying condolence and then LOL? And the family members, for example, who belong to this generation would be offended maybe, or will feel disrespected because they would feel that the person was actually insulting them by saying condolence, but LOL, which in this generation would mean laughing out loud. So I notified the person who sent the message and asked her, why did you say condolence LOL? So she said, what's wrong with that? Okay. I just wanted to say condolence, lots of love. Because in her generation, LOL would mean lots of love. Okay. So she thought LOL this time, the famous LOL this time would mean also the same thing. So she wrote it. So I told her, actually, that is not what it means by LOL in this generation. It means laughing out loud. So can you just imagine your message condolence and then you say you're laughing out loud? And so, oh, she said, oh, I'm sorry. So she want to rectify her post instead of just saying LOL. She wrote there condolence, lots of love, and then she added a hug. Okay, so that's differences in age. Okay, in culture, in terms of age. So ethnicity, of course, one ethnic group will have a different culture from another ethnic group. We also have differences in ability. So my ability will be different from the ability of the other. So if you are in the workplace, for example, you are working, you have to expect that you will be working with other people from different age groups, from different ethnicities, and of course, different abilities. So for example, you are asked, you're the boss, for example, and you are going to ask your employee to do a certain task, like encoding task. And then you would say, it took you 2 hours to encode this number of pages. It will only take me 1 hour. That's you. That's your ability. That might not be her ability. Okay, like um I encode, for example, for 5 hours because I don't know how to use the proper use of my fingers as regards the letters in the keyboard. So that's why it takes me long. But here comes another employee who can actually encode in just 1 hour because she knows how to use her fingers according to the letters in the keyboards. So that would be ability, just the same. For example, in the classroom, for example, you are with your classmates. Some of you are good academically and some of you are really bad academically. So do not belittle the ones who are bad academically because they might be good at other aspects. So for example, you're very good um, in all your subjects. You got like 90 and above grades, but you're not good in singing, you're not good in dancing, you're not good in fixing things, you're not good um in sports, but you're only good academically. Whereas your other classmate, for example, classmate B is not really good academically. She's very poor academically, but she's able to she can dance well, she can sing very well, she can sing very well, she can do sports very well, she can do basketball, volleyball, and all types of sports. So she's very good at all other aspects except academic. And how about you? You're only good at academics, you're not good at any other field. So you have to respect each other's ability. This is my ability, that is your ability, so let us respect each other. Religion as well. So we have different religions, therefore we have different religious beliefs. So we have to understand that in the workplace, we will be working with people from different religions. So do not brag about your religion and criticize other religions because you might be offending someone else. So keep to yourself your own religion, respect the religions of others. So for example, you're working with someone whose religion believes that they are not supposed to eat meat. And here you are bragging about how yummy, how delicious was your adobo during lunchtime. The pork was really like this and like that. You are even trying to describe the pork, and someone who does not eat pork is listening to you. You have to accept the fact that there are people who have different religions in your workplace, and you have to be careful with what you're going to say because you might offend the other individuals in the workplace. Also, you respect that everyone has a different educational background. This will also discuss about, or this will also tackle about institutions you graduated from. So do not expect that when you graduate, you'll be working with people of the same course, from the same university or college, and of the same degree as you have. So you might have graduated, for example, in a 4-year degree, but you will be working with people who graduated in a 2-year degree only. You'll be working with people from other universities. You might have graduated in a top university. Don't brag about it, okay? because whether you graduated in a top university or in a not so known university and from a not known university, what matters most is how productive you are in the workplace. You might have graduated in a top university, but your uh your output sucks. So what's the use of having graduated in a top university if you cannot even do your work well? So in the workplace, what matters is not your education, is not the degree you graduated and the school you graduated from. In the workplace, what matters is only your productivity, your output. How good are you at producing the output? Because the your boss will not ask you, oh, where did you graduate? You graduate from this top university. Is your output like that? No, the boss will just ask you, where's your output? How did you do it? Okay. So do not discriminate because of educational background. Definitely in your company there will be people who have not even graduated college, like those who are working in the maintenance department, janitors for example, but they play a very vital role in the company. So do not belittle them. Ay, janitor lang, tagalinis lang. No. What will happen to your company if no one would clean it every time you're done with your work? Can you imagine in 1 month time, no one cleans your company, no one cleans your toilet? What will happen? So you have to really show respect to everyone in the company regardless of education. Marital status. So you might be happily married, but your other colleagues are not happily married, and your other colleagues maybe have not gotten married, they're already old. Okay, so they have become matandang dalaga or matandang binata, and then here you are happily married. You're going to brag about married life, about your married life. You're going to show them that they are no good because they have been separated. You are good because you stay in your married life, and then you are happy. You are actually putting them down, belittling them. So you don't know their story. Okay. So if you're happily married, then be happy about it, but don't brag about it. Don't look down on anyone who is separated. Don't look down on anyone who has not gotten married. They might have their own reasons, okay, for whatever their status. Okay. Next, sexual orientation. So though you believe, for example, that the God created only two biological sexes, but he really just created two biological sexes. We cannot debate about it. There are only male and female. He only created male and female. But there are those individuals in your workplace who would be choosing or who would be identifying themselves different from what is biologically given to them. Then just respect. That's what their choice is. So just respect. And of course, we have here differences in income. So I may be receiving more. My colleagues might be different, receiving less. It doesn't matter. Okay. You have to respect each other, although you don't receive the same salary range. Okay. Like during parties, for example, there is a company party. So there is a contribution. Don't say, oh, never mind. Don't ask Juan to contribute because he only receives like 1/4 of what we are receiving. Do not do that. You are putting Juan in embarrassment. So wait for Juan to say, can I just give like half of the contribution because I don't receive that much salary just like you guys. So can I just contribute 1/4? Oh, that's the time you can say, okay. So since Juan says he cannot give like the 100% of the contribution, let's allow him to just give 1/4. Okay. He begged off from that 100%. But never go ahead of the person. Who knows? He might want also to contribute because he does not like to go to a party as a freeloader. Okay. So do not also brag that you received this much. So I will just, since I am the one I'm the only one here in this company who receives this much. Okay. I receive like 6 figures and you guys only receive like 4 figures. Let me just handle the party. You can handle the party without saying that you handle the party. Okay. Or the financial aspect of the party. You don't need to announce it to them that you actually have 6-digit salary, they only have 4-digit salary, so you're going to handle the financial aspect of the party. You don't need to tell that. Okay, if you want to handle the financial aspect, then go ahead, but you don't need to tell the group. Okay, so in short, you have to recognize that you have differences in the workplace. So therefore, you have to value each of these differences so that you can be productive in your workplace. Next, we have the word local. So the word local actually comes from the word global and local. So infused. It's the word local and local are infused to come up with this one word, which is glocal. So what is glocal? So when we say glocal, we develop and sell products or services uh, globally. Okay, so we develop products, we sell products globally. However, as we develop products and sell products globally, we also take into consideration the local culture and behavior of the consumers. We have to make sure that the products we sell globally will be suited for the local consumers. Okay, for example, I am from the Philippines and I am trying to create clothing products, but I am planning to sell these clothing products all over the world. Okay. So if I'm planning to sell my products all over the world, I have to consider, like for instance, the sizes of the people who will be consuming my product. Like if I create products for the Filipino people, t-shirts for the Filipino people, I'm going to take note of the sizes of the Filipinos because they're the ones who would be buying my products. If I'm going to go global, like I have to consider, let's say I am going to sell my products to the United States. So I also have to consider the sizes of the people there. Uh, I will not sell to them the products that are intended for the Filipino the products whose sizes are intended for the Filipinos, because definitely they would have bigger sizes in America. That's why we have what we call American sizes, Filipino sizes, Asian sizes, Western sizes, and the like. So I have considered those ones. Plus, I have to consider the taste of the people who would be consuming my products. For example, McDonald's sell or develop and sell products globally. If you're going to compare the sizes, for example, of burgers sold in America and burgers sold in the Philippines, they don't have the same size. Okay, because the producers take note of the consumers. Okay, so why make big sizes and sell it to the Filipinos when most of the Filipinos could not even consume that much, or that uh the big ones, the big uh burgers and the like. Also, we consider the local products or the local materials. So for example, French fries in the United States might be bigger than our French fries because they have bigger potatoes there. Our potatoes, we don't have that uh the potatoes as big as the potatoes they produce there in their area. So those are the things that we have to consider. Although we develop our products here in the Philippines, but we want to sell these products all over the globe, then we have to consider each and every culture and behavior of each of the country that will be patronizing our products. Like here in Baguio City, we have Nardas and Easter Weaving. And these two clothing companies or textile companies actually produce products, and these products are sold all over the world. But still the same, for example, here in the Philippines, if their textile would be used to create G-string and tapis, they would not be developing G-string and tapis and sell them all over the world, right? So that's why their textiles are used to create other designs aside from G-strings and tapis, or aside from the local the local design used by the people in the area. So their textiles now could be done into, they came up with design like a hoodie or an overall. They came up with a gown using the textile to suit the taste of the local consumers in the area wherever that product will be delivered or will be sold. So that is what is meant by glocal. Your product is done in a local area, but it will go global. It will be sold globally. And you also consider the taste, the culture, the behavior of the people in that area where your product will be sold. So that's glocal. Next, here, uh, we have another example here. So when we say glocal, you think globally. So as a producer, you think globally, you act locally since the product will be done in the local area, managed regionally since the distribution will be in a um, regional area. So we have example is the Coca-Cola products and other beverages. So when you do local, okay, when you go local, you actually would uh, look at it 100% global and also 100% local. So it should be 100% global and also 100% local. So it follows the global standards, so economies of scale, global low cost production and selling, global rollout of concepts or high speed, low complexity. And on the other hand, localization should also be 100% like culturally close to the customers. So you consider the culture of the customers. It should be flexible response to local customer needs. So you respond to the local needs of the customer in the area. Regional and local market penetration. So it should reach out up to the local market, okay, municipal, regional markets, and it should be following also the legal issues in the locality. So follow the um, legal policies and in that local community. We have what we call economic globalization. So in economic globalization, nations are economically interdependent, just like what I gave you as an example a while back. Since we don't have gasoline products, we have to buy gasoline products from other countries. So also we supply them our human resources. We have products here in the Philippines that we uh, sell to other countries because they don't have them. Okay. We have here economic globalization example. We have the growth of multinational companies such as Coca-Cola, Nike, and McDonald's make products available in almost all countries. So economic globalization. One product goes global. That's also another example of economic globalization. So we we help each other economically by uh, patronizing each other's product. We have globalization of government policies. So what does this mean? Globalization of government policies. So here we privatize state enterprises and trade liberalization. This also has something to do with trade liberalization. For example, the removal of world tariffs. Okay, and when we, through globalization of government policies, we have now um, trade liberalization, which actually consequently um, results to decrease in trade barriers. So the trade barriers are decreased, therefore we can have exchange of goods. Your questions 7 and 8. Number 7, the only recognized English in the world is American or British English. Number 8, in cross-cultural communication, providing the right response rather than providing the right message is more important. We have here globalization of culture. So what is meant by globalization of culture? So some popular culture have been globalized, right? Like rock music. So rock music is not originally in the Philippines. Okay? It's not an original music genre in the Philippines, not even in Asia, because rock music is a genre in America. Now it has become global. Almost everybody in the world already has access to rock music, likes rock music and the like. Now we have television dramas and programs, for example, that have become uh, globalized, okay, and therefore spreading the culture where that television dramas and programs come from. For example, K dramas are very popular. Before we had Mexican dramas here in the Philippines, and through these dramas we come to know the cultures of the people of that particular country represented by the drama. Like K dramas, through K dramas we come to know the culture of Koreans and the like. And then we have also movies. Definitely top of this one would be the American movies, which are watched all over the world. We have also fast food, for example. Um, our pancit here in the Philippines is not originally ours. Okay, it's actually originally Chinese. We have already here in the Philippines, we already eat like kimchi. What else we have? Burgers is not originally in the Philippines. So burgers, French fries, but we patronize them. So that's globalization of culture in terms of fast food. Dance, for example. So during prom, we have our prom. During the face-to-face, we we use dances that are not ours. For example, the Regodon de Honor, that's not from the Philippines, but we adopted it. And then of course sports like soccer, basketball, which are not really Philippine sports, but they have become Philippine favorites, because our sports would be sipak takraw, like hot arnis, and the like. Those are our sports, but they are, uh, basketball and soccer are not Philippine sports, but the Filipinos have become fond of these sports. So that's globalization of culture. Next, as part of globalization of culture is language, because I told you in our previous discussions that your language will always represent your culture. Like when you speak Ilocano, people will always know that you are carrying with you the Ilocano culture. If you speak Visaya, people will know that you're carrying with you the Visayan culture. So language is a part of culture. Now, the English language has become the world language. Okay, so it is the lingua franca of the modern world. That's why many people would like to learn English, because that's the only language that they can use to communicate with people who don't speak their language. So as English dominates, second language and foreign speakers of English have developed their own varieties of English. So therefore, we have now the world Englishes. That means that the standard of English will not only be based on the British and American English, because at this point in time, Singaporean English, Philippine English, they're already acceptable. In Indian English is already acceptable. Okay, so we don't only regard American and British English as the standard English, because we have now world Englishes. So globalization and its impacts on business communication. So language is a part of culture and is closely bound to the principles, rules, and values which are formed in a given society. So it is very important. Language is very important. Okay. It is only through language that communication will happen. So even in business communication, language is very important. So what is the impact now of globalization to business communication? So we have here cross-cultural communication. So what is meant by cross-cultural communication? It is communication between and among people who have differences in age, styles of working, nationality, ethnicity, race, gender, sexual orientation, and the like. So in short, diverse cultures, okay? Diversity. So when we say cross-cultural communication, we have different people, different individuals, just like in the workplace, there are different individuals, but they communicate with each other. Then we call that one cross-cultural communication. So like in the workplace, there are people from different age groups, people from different ethnicities, people from different educational background, people from different marital status, but they communicate with each other. Therefore, they have this cross-cultural communication. Now, cultural clashes would happen if, okay, someone would believe that his culture is better than the other. That we call that ethnocentrism. So I believe I am, for example, my culture is better than your culture, so you better shut up. Okay, I'm a millennial. My culture in terms of age is better than the culture of the old people. So you old people, you have to respect my culture based on my age. That should not be, because you have to remember, class, that there is no culture that is superior over another culture, because each culture is unique. My culture is unique, your culture is unique, so it cannot be possible that your culture is superior than my culture, or my culture is superior than over your culture, because every culture is unique. When we say unique, my culture has its own identity, your culture has its own identity. We cannot compare. It cannot be compared since it has different variables. So in your workplace later, avoid comparing your cultures. Avoid saying that my culture is better, my culture is superior, my culture is the best, because there's no such thing as that. So cross-cultural communication is necessary in order to avoid misunderstanding. Yes, the moment you recognize and value differences, then there will be understanding, there will be productivity in the workplace. When there is cross-cultural communication, when you understand, when you recognize and value each other's differences, then trust will be developed, and therefore everybody will cooperate. Because if there is misunderstanding, of course, we cannot expect that there will be cooperation between and among workmates. Once trust is developed because of cross-cultural communication, then there will be cooperation. It will be easy for you to get your group or team to cooperate and work on a certain project. When we have cross-cultural communication, we focus on providing the right response. So right response rather than providing the right message. So when you communicate, for example, with people from different culture, what is meant by providing the right response? You think first before you're going to say anything to that person. Now, you consider his culture, his background, educational background, his tribal culture, his age culture. You consider all these things, gender culture, before you're going to say anything. So respond appropriately, considering the culture of the person, recognizing and valuing the culture of the person in all categories. Then provide that response, because that is more important than providing the right message. So for example, even if the right message is like you're the boss, even if the right message is uh, your output sucks, for example, you don't say that. You have to consider uh, how is the tolerance of this person? How is his culture? Will he tolerate when will he be hurt when I say your output sucks, do it again? Will he be offended? So how can I respond? How can I respond to this output of my employee better? Okay. So, or you heard something, before you respond, you think first of how you're going to phrase your response. So going back to our principles of communication, know your purpose, okay? Know your purpose, and then think of ethical communication. Think of the principle that communication is not repeatable or not retrievable, okay? So that you will be able to come up with the right response to uh, to it, or you can come up with right feedback, okay? Right feedback, timely feedback, appropriate feedback, because you have recognized and value the differences between you and that person you're communicating with. Your numbers 9 and 10. The way businesses communicate is affected by technology. And number 10, factual information plays a vital role in an effective cross-cultural communication. So successful cross-cultural communication creates a dialogue, a continuous transfer of information. Because if communication is not actually, or if you communicate without bearing in mind the differences between you and the person you're communicating with, you will create misunderstanding, and therefore there would be no dialogues. The communication will just stop without resolving anything. However, if you have this respect for others' cultures, both of you would respect each other's cultures, then there would be continuous transfer of information. So for example, this one. So this is the cross-cultural model of communication in organizations or in the workplace by Matthews and Thacker 2012. So these are the barriers in communication. Culture. So you have different cultures, technology, maybe each of these companies have different technologies. Then we have different languages, definitely, that because the one is Korean, the other one is American. Of course, different workforce, different environments. Now, we have your company A and company B. Now, there would be communication between these two companies. Now, if they are not able to surpass these barriers, then there would be no dialogue between these two companies because of these barriers. They're not able uh, to recognize and value the differences in terms of culture, technology, language, workforce environment. Then they will not have any dialogue at all. No communication will proceed. However, if they are able to surpass these barriers, they would be able to recognize and value differences, then there will be dialogue and there will be continuous communication. Thus, it will result to innovation, it will result to conflict management and information flow, and therefore, it will now result to productivity. Next, the impact of globalization on cross-cultural communication. Now, we have to understand that global businesses must understand how to communicate with employees. That's very important. First, they should know how to communicate with employees because the employees are the backbone of the company, of the businesses. No employees, no business. You cannot have business without employees. So know how to communicate with your employees. If you're the boss, you're the CEO, you should know the culture. You should know how to recognize and value the cultures of your employees so that you can communicate to them properly. You can have cross-cultural communication with your employees. The same is true when you communicate with your customers. Okay. That's why in every company there's this what we call customer service. Okay, customer service, because since you have customers from different cultures, you should be able to recognize and value these cultures of your customers in order for you to be able to cross culturally communicate with them. Okay, so that you will be able to fulfill your mission, your business mission, and also build value for stakeholders. In short, you will become productive and successful in your business if you are going to uh, employ cross-cultural communication. Now, the use of technology has had a profound impact on how businesses communicate globally and market their products and services. So, because of globalization, we have technology, or because of technology, we have globalization. And because of this one, businesses can now communicate globally, market their products globally. With the advancement in technology, organizations must still be discerning of the culture nuances that can potentially present that can potentially present obstacles in trying to increase profits and market share. What does this one say? This is just saying that um, even if we already employ cross-cultural communication, still there will still be barriers, okay, nuances or cultural problems that will arise. That is why every business should be able to regular check on culture nuances so that they can prevent misunderstanding to happen, or they can prevent barriers, okay, in the conduct of their business. Cultural proficiency doesn't mean memorizing every cultural nuance of every market. So if you're proficient in culture, it doesn't necessarily mean you memorize every cultural problem that will arise in your business. Okay? It is knowing when to listen, when to ask for help, and when finally to speak. Therefore, to understand, okay, to be proficient in culture, we have to learn how to listen. So listening is different from hearing. When we listen with our mind and heart. That is listening. In order for us to identify um, cultural nuance, we need to listen. Okay, we need to listen with our heart and mind. We have to analyze what's going on, and then we should know when to ask help. If you really need to ask help, then we ask help so that uh, we can help resolve the barriers, and then know when we can finally speak. It's not always that we need to speak. First, we need to listen, and then we have to assess the situation. Do we need help? Then we ask help. If we don't need help, then we don't ask for help, and then we can speak, okay, our opinion after analyzing, after understanding the culture, after recognizing and valuing the culture. Then we can finally speak. That's according to Genevieve Hilton. Culture can affect how we perceive the actions of others. Okay, our culture, okay, can affect how we perceive the actions of others. So for example, okay, this is just a very um concrete analogy. For example, my I am raised to be conservative, so I have a conservative culture. Now when I see a woman wearing short skirt or a short, I might think of her as um somebody who is not modest, somebody who is flirtatious, because I was not raised that way. So my culture now dictates how I look at other individuals. Okay, so I was raised as conservative. So when I see someone who is wearing shorts, I would think that that woman is flirtatious, maybe pervert. Okay, because that is how I look at the person based on my culture. Okay, and that is why it is very important to also understand the culture of other. I might think the person is flirtatious, but she's not actually flirtatious. That is her culture. That is how she's raised. It's like, for example, um, two women. One is covered all over with only the eyes shown, and the other one, this is in the beach, for example. The other one is uh, just wearing two-piece with sunglasses. So the one who is covered all over would say, their men are cruel. Imagine they only covered the eyes and some and the feminine or the organs that would show femininity, the breast and the vagina are only covered plus the eyes. But the woman who is wearing a two-piece with this the sunglasses will look at the person, or the one who is covered all throughout her body with only the eyes showing would say, how cruel are the men in her community. Imagine they covered her. They only allowed her to show her eyes. So you see, if we don't understand each other's culture, we would misinterpret the cultures of others. And our culture will dictate how we perceive the actions of others. So that is why it is necessary for us to have cross-cultural communication. It's necessary to recognize the cultures of others and also value their culture to avoid misunderstanding, misinterpretation. Our perception of others directly affects how we interpret their behavior and action. So it's similar to what I explained earlier, that how we look at others, okay, would be also would also affect on how we're going to interpret their behavior and actions. Okay, so I look at the person as scantily dressed, so I will interpret her being um flirt, being immoral maybe, and the like. Effective cross-cultural communications requires that we base our perceptions on facts and not merely on personal biases and prejudices. So not based on our culture. We have to interpret the behavior and actions of others based on analyzing his or their culture, um, how their own lifestyle, not based on our lifestyle. So we have to gather factual information about the culture of the other individual. We don't analyze their behavior, we don't interpret their behavior or their actions based on our culture. We always have to interpret, analyze their actions based on their culture, on their lifestyle, not on ours, because our culture is not the standard culture. Our culture is not the standard of their behavior, of their actions. They always act according to their culture, just like us. We always act according to our culture. So therefore, whatever we do is a reflection of how we were brought up, of how we were trained. And what we are doing might not be consistent or might not be in accordance to what the others uh might that be in accordance to the taste of the others who have other cultures. So in the same manner, they don't interpret our actions based on their culture. They have to know our culture so that they can interpret our actions well based on our culture. Okay. So same way, we have our own culture, but when we see someone who is doing something that is opposite of our culture, of our belief, we don't judge that person. We don't interpret his action based on our culture. Know first the culture of that person and then try to interpret. Why is he doing that? Because this is his culture. Okay. So that's it for globalization. So I hope you were able to understand the topic and you learned something from this discussion. Thank you very much for listening.